Welcome to the Networking with Michelle podcast, the show dedicated on providing you the how-tos of marketing and networking strategies. Here we believe in the Jim Rohn quote, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Hey everyone, I want to thank you for tuning into this episode of Networking with Michelle. I'm your host, Michelle Gomez. And before we continue, I just want to say thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for those that send feedback to me via email, social media, what they like about the show, that specific guest, specific topics that we've addressed on the show. I thank you because guests reach out to me each day wanting to be on the show, wanting to contribute to my website. And I thought last year when I was going to launch this, that was one thing I was going to have to worry about is finding people on the show. And I never had to worry about that problem. And I want to say thank you to the listener. Thank you to the guest who continue to pour into me without even knowing it. With that being said, today's special guest is Jamillah Rahmaad, a PR guru. I learned so much from her in this episode, especially since I used to do PR, but so much is changing with social media, technology, the landscape for today's entrepreneur, and we discuss all of those things. More importantly, she has a new book called Build Authority, Boost Credibility, Action Plans to Befriend Your Brand. I absolutely love this title. The design work is amazing. You have to buy this today. You have to buy this book. If you are looking to gain influence, to showcase your expertise, you have and need PR. You can't deny that you need PR. And she walks you step by step on how to do that through her new book. So if you go to her website, befriendyourbrand.com, this book is available for $12.99. But check this out. You are a listener. You're a listener of Networking with Michelle. We got a 15% discount code. So if you go to the website, the code is NWM, Networking with Michelle. You purchase the book, $12.99, use the code, get 15% off. You read the book, then you come back to me on Instagram, Twitter, email me, like, Michelle, I absolutely love this book. This is the best book I've read this month. That's what I want to hear from you. But without further ado, we're going to welcome Jamillah on the show. Hey everyone, thank you for tuning into this episode of Networking with Michelle. Today's special guest is Jamillah Rahmaad. She is the owner of JRPR Public Relations Consultancy, where she has executed public relations and social media campaigns for the top industry professionals and small business leaders, fulfilling her passion for brand storytelling and media relations. She has the new book called Build Authority, Boost Credibility, Action Plans to Befriend Your Brand. She has all the keywords in this book. This is a real eye catcher, y'all. We're gonna have the link in the bio, but make sure you get this book, Build Authority, Boost Credibility. Jamillah, thanks for coming on the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I'm doing great today. How are you?
I'm doing good. First of all, when you sent me this book a couple of weeks ago, I was in a transition and I was like, the title itself, I was like, hold on, let me stop everything. And I literally skimmed through this book and I absolutely love it. So I can't wait for the audience to get it. But thank you so much for writing this. And what brought it? Why'd you decide to write it?
Well, I know that a lot of small business owners and entrepreneurs or the 9-to-5ers who have the side hustle, everyone is looking to become an authority within their niche, within their industry. And one of the first things we always think of is, how do I become a thought leader? So with that being the step one, to introduce people to public relations and kind of the background of what we do, that's where I wanted to start, and that's where I knew people were struggling.
So how did you get started in PR?
Oh, man. Well, actually, it started all in college. I started school as a pre-med major. Oh. And unfortunately, when it came to blood and guts and all the gross things that actually happen, in theory, it sounded like a really great idea. Who doesn't want to be a doctor? It's like the dream job.
Yeah.
Until, there's blood and guts and all this gross stuff. And, there's these really hard sciences. And I was really good at math, but science was just never really my thing. But I didn't know that until I went to college, and no one actually ever asked me what I wanted to be. So if you go to college with that type of mindset, you're just like, oh, I'll just name something and that's what I'll go for. And then when you get experience in that field, I was lucky enough to get out of that major before I graduated. And I was lucky enough to be taken in by the marketing team at the hospital that I was working at. And then that moved on to me working at a very coveted internship with a governmental agency in Lansing, Michigan. I'm a Michigan State Spartan. And that's kind of how I fell in love with public relations. And honestly, when I applied for the internship, I had no idea what public relations was. But God had a plan for me. And of all the people that were interviewed, because it was a very competitive internship, I actually got the job.
Wow, that's very impressive. Because usually if people think about pre-med, medical school, whatever, it's like all or nothing. So did you initiate that transition with the hospital's marketing team, or like how did that work at such an early age?
That's funny. I didn't initiate it at all. It kind of just happened. I was seriously looking for a way out of my major. I just knew, I was like, wait a minute, because pre-med, while you can go into school with that as your major, and that's absolutely crazy, it's not actually a major that you can graduate with. So you have to pick something within the science category to actually graduate. So I picked medical technology. And with medical technology, that's a lot of bio work in the labs where you're playing with bodily fluids a lot. And you're learning like the chemistry of the body. And I absolutely hated it. I didn't understand. My grades were suffering. So luckily enough, I found a volunteer position where I could teach health to other college students. And then I leveraged that to become their marketing assistant. And I just kind of worked my way up. And then I realized, I don't even like the healthcare field. I mean, it's cool. And everything they do is cool. But it was just kind of an experiment, so to say, of how I could find what I liked in life. And I think that that's really important to learn when you're in those college years. You have to figure out what it is that you like, because in theory, things sound good until you actually get into the action of doing them.
Yeah, very smart. In theory.
Theory. I can tell you, there were days when it was me and a friend, and we both realized we hated our major. We would cry. We would walk out of class and be literally in tears, and people would just be walking by us looking like, what are these two crazy girls crying about? We were like suffering.
Wow. In your opinion, with all these years of experience right now, in your opinion, can you please explain the difference between marketing, advertising, public relations, and even social media?
Great question. Now, we all go hand in hand. Marketing, public relations, and advertising, they go hand in hand. So one of the simplest ways that I explain this to people is when you think of advertising, think of commercials. When you think of marketing, think of the tactics that's going to put you on the commercials, or other tactics that, are going to put your brand in front of places. When you think of public relations, think of a method that's going to put you in those places, but nobody knows how you got there. Yeah, I love calling us public relations professionals. We are like the sneaky ninjas behind the scenes that are getting you placements and having, other resources talk about your business and your brand. So a lot of times when you see editorial articles in magazines that may be covering a celebrity, or kind of giving them like that in-home visit behind the scenes, that's public relations. And sometimes you can pay for those, but for the most part, that's just PR. We have pitched you to the right outlet that's looking to share your message, and you don't pay those advertising dollars. With ads, you can clearly spot those out because it's more or less, hey, here's Pantene Pro V. We have shampoo. Buy this. Mm-hmm. And we more or less are looking to just share your brand story.
Why do you think storytelling, it seems like that's like the new marketing phenomenon right now? Why do you think people are gravitating to that?
Honestly, because we grew up to stories. Everything is a story. The movies we watch have a storyline. We love to follow those. We love to read books that explain, from start to finish something that happened. As kids, we're read bedtime stories. So if you can find like a creative way to talk about how your brand started or how you're helping people and really just provide them with an open book of what it is that you do, that's one of the best ways to advertise because it gives the audience a sense of connection with you. And it takes the being a brand out of your business and it makes you more personable.
Now, I know you just said that you're like some secret stealth ninja in the media landscape, but how do you specifically help small business owners? Because I know there's I did a little PR in the entertainment industry years ago, and it's a hard sell because it's like people expect to be on a website, just say a blog, get the media interview or the media attention, and then they expect sales to drive immediately. So how do you help small business owners on creating the campaign and just the overall PR landscape?
Yeah. When you only focus on public relations and you're looking for that to drive sales, that is your first mistake. Public relations should be thought of as more of a strategy to engage your audience, to bring awareness to your brand. We all know, think of a big brand like McDonald's. We all know what McDonald's is, what they have to offer, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to shop there. People can support you without shopping with you. How many of these accounts that we see, and I'm talking big names, Sprint, Verizon, they have millions of followers on their social media. However, that doesn't mean that everyone that follows them is a Sprint customer. It doesn't mean that, everyone's going to buy something from them. However, these supporters and fans of your brand, they help spread awareness, they help build your credibility, and they help you successfully become an expert in your industry. So while public relations may not translate to sales, they open new doors of opportunity, new placements for you, especially when it comes to advertising. A lot of times I explain public relations as it's better than advertising simply because you're not directly paying to be placed in a media outlet. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things to think about. You don't want to just forget about public relations in your business, especially as a small business. You want to start having people talk about you and about your business and what it is you have to offer. And the best way, we all know, to get customers is through word of mouth. So that's really what public relations is, especially when it comes to working with small businesses. You want to start with being a localist. You want to start with what can you offer to the people in your community? How can you connect with them? How can they know what it is that I have to offer? Because there's a ton of really awesome businesses and just no one knows about them.
So why do you think small business owners don't see the benefit of PR?
A lot of times because they don't know what public relations is by definition. And once they do contact a publicist or a public relations consultant or a PR agency, those big budgets and the numbers for the price really scare them away. A lot of small businesses can't afford to spend between $2,000 to $5,000 a month on a service that they're not sure is going to produce exactly what it is that they want. So for people who don't have that budget, I definitely tell them, see if you can connect with someone who is doing consulting and you can just get an hour or two of their time, or what books are available for you to read, or are there some online courses that you can take? Because a lot of small businesses can't afford that price tag, although they always know the value of putting their brand in, media outlets. They just can't afford it.
If a small business owner does have that budget, a hefty marketing budget, when is a good time to hire a publicist?
I would say when you're ready. Just because you have that budget, you may not have something newsworthy, or you may actually just be doing good on your own. Sometimes it's really good, especially if you have like a new product launch, a new location, storefront launch. You're looking to put your CEO in the spotlight, or you really want to engage people surrounding your brand. That is what makes it a good time. But it's kind of a case-by-case basis. So I definitely don't think that everyone needs a publicist all the time or every time or just because they have a budget. But that's one of those questions that they'll have to ask themselves and really see if that's something that they should invest in. But if not, there's always methods to do it yourself. You just have to make sure that you're doing it effectively.
How can we determine, because you mentioned newsworthy. So how can we determine, like, hey, this is newsworthy, let me write up a press release, versus, doing a full-fledged campaign for maybe 3 to 6 months?
Because small business is our baby, we think everything is newsworthy. But if it's like, hey, we bought new windows at our storefront, I'm sorry, right? That's not newsworthy. But you would be surprised at some of the quote unquote newsworthy things that come across journalists' tables, that come across, in these press releases that I'm always getting. Everything isn't newsworthy, but if there's something that a story should be covered on, and I mean, you really know, like, the 5 o'clock news needs to be there. They definitely need to be talking to me. That's what makes it newsworthy. Just because you want to get a message out, that doesn't make it newsworthy. And there still are ways that you can create a campaign to make announcements. However, the press release, while it's still a very, very handy tool, it's one of the most overused tools in public relations that can yield you the least amount of results, especially when you're spending a lot of time crafting a press release, yet your announcement isn't newsworthy. Then you've spent all this time when you could have been spending it somewhere else. You could have been talking directly to your audience through a social media channel, or you could have had, a on the spot event and made the announcement and then sought news coverage from the event. So it's really based on strategy.
Always goes back to strategy.
Always goes back to strategy.
I like that. That might be a tweetable right there. Always goes back to strategy. Okay. Now, I think a lot of people, they are mesmerized by entrepreneurship, right? Media success, a whole bunch of followers, and probably need to get to that pretty soon about the followers. But what are some of the tips to help someone really hone in on creating a niche, and how can they avoid brand confusion?
Ooh, that's a heavy question. Well, I think with brand confusion, to start there, the best thing that you need to do is say, what are people looking for? What problem do I solve? And what are people looking for? Because a lot of times we don't know who our target or niche market is because we think that our product or our business is for everyone. I can't even tell you how often I talk to entrepreneurs or small business owners, and I say, oh, okay, well, who do you work with? Oh, well, this bottle of lotion is for everyone and everyone can use it. And yes, you're right. Everyone can use it, but who is using it? Is it men? Is it women? Is it children? Is there a certain smell to it that certain people are looking for? So really, to dive into your niche and your target market, you have to have an understanding of your product. You have to have an understanding of why it is valuable. And then for brand clarity, you have to know how to explain it in an attractive way that people are going to latch on to. Because so often if you have this bottle of lotion, you're like, hey, I got a bottle of lotion and it's for everybody. Don't you want to buy it? I absolutely don't. I'm sorry. There's nothing awesome about your message. I don't really understand why you're selling me this lotion. There's a million other lotions. And even then, people will also explain to me like, oh, I have no competition. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
There's billions of people in the world, and I'm sure there's somebody else with something similar to yours. How do you differentiate yourself from those other people, whether it's the same thing or something similar? Other people have lotion, so what makes me want to buy yours? And usually what helps this is having a story behind it. Not too long ago, I met a woman who was saying she created her body care items because she has a young daughter who suffers from eczema. So she did all this research, and because she's a lawyer, she did all this research and she searched for patents and all of these things. And that's how she figured out what was included in lotions and what she needed to not include in her product. And I told her, I'm like, you need to find a way to tell that as a story that makes sense from beginning to end. It talks about the problem you faced, how you thought to solve it, and how you want to help others. Because it was an amazing story, and she actually does have an amazing product. But again, if you only present it as, hey, there's this lotion that I have, and everybody wants it, so you should buy it, no one's going to listen to you. And it's easy to get looked over in such a large market.
So she was able to take care of her narrative.
Yes. She started, I don't know if she started controlling her narrative, but
okay.
I definitely gave her the advice to start controlling the conversation. And one of the things that you can do when you're looking to talk about a specific narrative, or if you're looking to control it, you have to hone in on what the problem is that you're solving. So for her, I think a good start would be to start talking about the problems of eczema. How do they start? What are the causes? What are some of their triggers? What causes a flare-up? Things like that. And start building your conversation around that. And a lot of times people think that with public relations, you have to push your brand out so much. And you just have to only talk about your brand. You only have to talk about, this lotion, this lotion. But she can start a conversation talking about eczema only and never has to mention her lotion because she's still an expert in her industry.
Absolutely. And I know I was struggling with this earlier this year, and I'm just now tapping into not just my story, but sharing my story. And what I realized is the more I'm able to tap into certain aspects of my story, it's allowing me to create more content. And I try to advise other business owners as much as possible, like, you have to create content. You have to create content. And the content is not about your business and your service only, but it's about solving, I love what you said, it's about solving the problems. It's about maybe even adding your 2 cents on other products. It's like, yes, I have a lotion myself, but maybe before I created my lotion, I found good things or bad things in these types of lotions, and this is what allowed me to create mine. And I don't know how we can kind of like widen the spectrum a little bit to understand that your story and your creating content go together. It's hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you're creating content, really, I think that, and this is me personally, some other public relations professionals may disagree, but I definitely believe that when you're thinking about creating content, it's not necessarily only for your target market. It's for people that are within the industry, who are going to look at you as an expert and also, provide you with referrals later down the line. Mm-hmm. It's also for the generic public who are just interested in reading and learning more knowledge. And then it's also for your niche market who are looking to have these problems solved. So when you're thinking about creating content, it doesn't necessarily only have to be about your specific product or your specific niche. It just needs to be relative to what it is that you're trying to convey to your audience.
Okay. I want to talk about social media a little bit. And I think a lot of us, I don't know, I'm starting to think there's multiple categories when it comes to social media. But to keep it simple, it's kind of like you have you have people that have a lot of followers. And then you have people that have a good average amount of followers, and they're able to monetize their followers. So how can we gain influence, and how can we monetize that influence?
With gaining influence, it's because you have attracted the right people to the right message. Mm-hmm. That's how you gain influence. A lot of times when we see someone who is on social media with a large following, in some other type of way outside of social media, they have connected with their audience, or if they build their entire business from social media, it's because they have heavily engaged with their audience on social media. So people want to know what stories they're sharing, what they're talking about. And when you see those large numbers on social media, a lot of times those people are very, very heavy involved in how much they're talking to their audience, the content that they're sharing. They're doing affiliate marketing. They're doing partnerships. Other people are promoting them as well. So it's not necessarily one-sided. And that's something that we always have to remember, because we're always so focused on our business that we forget the importance and the value of building a community of people. Mm-hmm. Because you're going to need somebody to talk to. You're going to need somebody to check you or to help guide you, or someone that you can bounce ideas off of. So the value in creating a community is what really pushes your influence further.
That's a good point. So last year you got in touch with me. I was able to have 2 of your clients on my show.
Yes.
How long have you been involved with podcasting?
I have been podcasting my own podcast, which is E is for Effit. And that has been, almost a year? Yeah, we're going on a year, February 2017. It will be a year old. So not quite yet, but very soon it'll be a year in. E is for Effit has just been amazing. It's a really great outlet, and we call it, me and my business partner, we call it therapy. Because a lot of times we want to talk about our journeys and we want to share what's going on, the challenges that we have. And we kind of want to gripe a little bit. We want to create a community of other people that have been where we have been, or who plan to go where we're going. So E is for Effit has really just been the best thing, one of the best things that have happened for me in 2016. It's been a real journey, actually, learning how to podcast and actually taking the actions to do it. I love podcasting. It does take work, though.
So when it came to the podcasting, did you have your clients go on other shows first, or did you launch your show first?
I had always had clients going on podcasts.
Okay.
They kind of weren't related. One of my business besties, she just kind of came up with the idea because her and I can talk on the phone for hours and discuss things. And then we also did events surrounding a product that we had, which is the F Your Vision Board workbook. Mm. And from that, we decided to branch off into a podcast.
Cool. And how do you think podcasting has helped you and your clients? Well, of course, you by having your own show, and then with your clients, having them go on other shows.
Well, to start, podcasting helps my clients because it helps them become better at telling their stories. A lot of times we're so fearful when we have, cameras and lights in front of us, or someone's holding a mic right at our mouth and they're waiting for us to respond and say the right thing. So with podcasting, you get a chance to tell your story, but it's in a more relaxed atmosphere. And sometimes you get the option to have editing done so that you don't sound like a complete crazy person. But it has been absolutely amazing in helping them have content to share from other resources that provides them with thought leadership. And it also gives them a chance to really work out telling their brand story. So podcasts have been a godsend to my clients. And I always recommend people to talk to podcasters, see if you can get an interview, or just see what it is that they think about your brand, your product, or your business. Because most podcasters out there, they are actually changing the culture of media relations. They are providing king content, and you can't ignore them. If you're ignoring them, you're making a huge mistake. For me, podcasting has helped a lot because it helps me tell my story, and it gets me a little bit more comfortable in front of the mic because I'm so used to doing things for others, my clients and the people that I do coaching with. But I'm always behind the scenes, and I always tell people, that's the reason I'm a publicist, because I don't necessarily want to be on the stage. And it's definitely pushing me out of my comfort zone. So it has been a tremendous help for me.
Okay. Just a few more questions. What I like about your book is that it's an action book. And I've read several, marketing and PR books, and, usually they're a straight read. And of course, you're not able to apply all of that information. But with your book, it's an action book. So I encourage everyone, once you purchase it, make sure you print it out. Well, I'm still old school. I like paper.
I am too. Me too. You are not alone. I love printing stuff out and writing on it.
But what I'm saying, and make sure you do the work. This is, a guide. This is a workbook. You have to do the work. And I think it helps because Jamillah provides several templates in order for you to move forward with your PR, your new PR campaign that you're going to start, right? But what I'm getting at is you have the action guide, and then I see that you're also going to create a course. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yes. Actually, it launches on September 19th.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'll be launching the Befriend Your Brand course, which is a series on how to create a winning public relations strategy. And inside the course, there are so many things to help you because I know a lot of times, as I said, there's small business owners and they're entrepreneurs who just can't afford a retainer with a PR agency. So this course is the entirety of everything that a public relations professional would do for you. It teaches you how to do it yourself. And just like the book, it is action plans. It includes workbooks. It includes ebooks. It includes video courses.
Wow.
And everything revolves around being able to tell your brand story, being able to pitch to the media, and how to manage your social media in the background. So I'm really excited, and I think that it's just like going to change the face of how small businesses are. And like you said before, there's a lot of other quote unquote solutions and books out there that are kind of straight reads without action plans. And what I really wanted to do was kind of dig in there and kind of dissolve all of the fluff that's out there so that people could really walk away and say, okay, I can do this myself now. And I have this system, I have these strategies, I have these workbooks, I just work through it, and I know how to do it for myself. Because while it takes work, if you're willing to put in the time and the work and the effort behind it, then you can do it yourself, and you don't have to worry about such a large retainer. Every month you're paying one time for this course, and you get lifetime access to it, and it's going to help you change the game of your business.
Absolutely. I'm saying this from experience. PR it's very important. When I released my book in 2014, I was still old school. I was like, okay, I'm gonna like jump on all these blogs or whatever, and somehow I stumbled across podcasting. The podcasting community has been very good to me over the past almost 2 years now. And what I like, what you mentioned earlier, is just you want that web presence. And podcasts, people can always change like their websites. I've done it so many times and I lose pages. But if you do an interview, like that episode, it's going to stick. It's usually going to stick online. It's going to stick on iTunes. It's going to stick on Google Play. And you just start there. You continue to build. And before you know it, when you become that national thought leader that you're pursuing, or that expert or that influence, whatever you want to call it, that's when you're able to hire a publicist, create a team, and be like, okay, it's time to go all in. You start from maybe a self-published book, and then you go to, who knows, a national, nationwide, international best-selling book with the help of a publicist, a team. There's so many moving pieces, but I think your course will allow people to at least get the ball rolling.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. Most people are stifled because they never take the first step. That is like one of the hardest things to do, is to take the leap and take the first step of action to even get the ball rolling. So if no one takes anything else away from this, I just want them to know, like, you have to start. You have to stop dreaming and start doing.
How do you define success?
That's a good question. And I know it's like one of those questions that's personal to everyone.
Yeah.
For me, success is having the freedom to be creative, having the freedom to work when I want to, have the freedom to pay my bills. It is freeing to know, like, I have money in my account and I can pay this car note.
And still have some more money.
Yes. Praise him.
Absolutely.
It is. That is, freedom is success.
And how can people get in touch with you, find you on social media, your podcast, all that good stuff?
So the podcast is E is for Effit. So when you think E is for effort, think E is for Effit. And that is EFFIT. So eisforeffit.com. You can find the podcast. You can chat with us if you're looking for an interview, or you want to talk about a special word that you can think of that starts with an F, whether it's finagle, future, finances, all of those things. We love the word F on E is for Effit. You can find me, Jamillah Rahmaad. I am on all social media at JAI_soapbox. I'm also around, if you follow the hashtag Befriend Your Brand, or you can find Befriend Your Brand on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook.
All right. I love it. We make sure we support her, support this young lady and all the work that she is doing. Remember, I believe in you, and a personal connection leads to an influential network. Thanks for networking with Michelle.